Hello, Joe Pryor again here, and we're going to get into the meat of investing in real estate. And we're going to do something right now that I think is extremely important if you haven't been through this before, which is establishing a timeline from contract to close. So we're going to go more specifics here. So let's kind of start. So first of all, let's talk about the normal time from contract to close. Now, in Fannie Mae, we're normally talking about 45 to 60 days. You can get it done in 30. It is really, really possible. But if you've never done this before, number one, it may take you a little bit more time in terms of document transfer and understanding. The second thing is, if you already own real estate properties, there's going to be a little bit more work that you have to do because you have to supply the information, the leases, things of that nature. That can extend it out. And the reason why I'm pointing all of this out is so that when you do a contract, that you put a certain amount of time in that contract. They're going to want to know, that seller, be it a builder or an individual, when can you close on this? And what's a reasonable amount of time? Now, if you close earlier, that's great, but we want to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of leeway. Now, self-directed IRAs, which we've gone into, are longer in process. They are much more involved. I'm not saying you can't get this done in 60 days, but I typically like to put 90 days on a contract for a self-directed IRA. But, talk to, the third party that you're dealing with, especially if it's a good one. Maybe it's better at this point, but my experience has been 60 to 90 days. Now, FHA and VA are often 60 days, and typically VA is a little bit longer than FHA, mainly because of the leeway the appraiser has. So, in other words, when an appraisal is ordered and given to an appraiser, on VA, they have so much time that they don't have on other types of appraisals to get to the property, and so much time to complete the appraisal and get it back to the lender. So I typically like to do 60 days on that. The reason why FHA is very important is even if you're buying a duplex to quadruplex, you still may be a first-time buyer, and just allow for that degree of difficulty. Again, understand, if you close earlier, you're a hero. But do not close, a situation where I'm going to close in 30 days and it doesn't happen, because contracts in some states can be voided in that case, and you don't want to get into that because you've got time, effort, and money into a transaction. Now, new construction is going to vary, and the reason why it's going to vary is when you buy it. Now, it used to be that you could buy out of the ground, which took 6 to 8 months, to complete. Most builders don't want to do that anymore. Builders that I deal with very often are saying, I'm going to sell you something for an investor that can close in the next 60 days. Now, it's possible to get longer. I have one right now. This is August when I'm recording this, and they want to close in January, and we're talking to a builder to see if they can do that. But that's going to be a rare occasion in that respect. So understand that that is the normal timeline that we're dealing with. Now, let's talk about dealing with a lender. So understand one thing. If you've got a longer term contract, in other words, let's say the builder says, I'll give you 120 days to close because, basically it's the roof's on, foundation's in, the framing is up, but it's going to take another 4 months. Understand that paperwork has a 90-day lifespan. And as such, you got to start over. They got to do a fresh credit pull, which you don't want. The paperwork is all dead. You got to start over again with that. So understand that you never want to do something that when 90 days and it's going to take more than that to close. Now, a home under construction, again, like I say, is different. And the thing that I've seen is incredible delays that were unexpected. In other words, we thought we were going to close in 60 to 90 days, but, maybe a subcontractor didn't show up. Maybe it didn't pass the city inspection. They got to go back. They got to fix what it is, get a re-inspection done, get them back out. And then at the end, weather can really affect things. Because the last thing you do, finish out the driveway, put in the landscaping, put in the fencing, all of those things. And if rain comes and snow comes or whatever it is for the time of the year, those are going to, possibly delay your closing. Now, the last 30 days, understand this, you are going to be very, very busy. This is where most of the paperwork happens. This is where underwriting can come back and say, I need another document, I need this, I need that. You're also wanting to make sure that if you're buying an existing property, that all the repairs are done properly and re-inspected. So understand there's a bit of a hectic time as you get towards closing. Now, hopefully it won't happen, but I want to prepare you for that. And inspection timeline. This varies from state to state. Now, where I'm in, it's defaulted to 10 days from the time that something is under contract. So it may vary from state to state. Doesn't mean you can't change it. You can also allows you to say, well, I can't do it in 10 days. Maybe you're in a busy market and you can't get an inspector, and maybe you do 15, but understand it's going to vary from state to state. Now, if it's new construction, you don't want to do anything until it is 100% complete. In other words, how can you inspect something when you can't inspect everything? Now, understand a lot of builders are going to push you like crazy, especially independent builders that are going through local or regional banks. The interest rate clock is ticking, and I've seen the bums rush being put on people. And I guarantee you, the thing that we do as that buffer zone between you and the builder is saying, I'm sorry, Charlie, this isn't going to happen. You're not going to, do this until that's 100% complete. And if anything is wrong, it's 100% taken care of. So don't let them do that. And again, often contracts regulate repair guidelines. What can be inspected? What's the situation? Make sure that your specialist understands and explains to you that aspect of the contract. Then there's a thing called clear to close. Now, this is a term we're all familiar with in the real estate industry. You may go, what the heck is that? Basically, what that means is everything's complete. You're ready to go. In order to do that, you have to go through final underwriting. And in final underwriting, before it even gets to underwriting, the last credit pull, to check to see if anything has changed, and you can make your numbers, you make your ratios properly. The appraisal has got to be in there, appraised at least the value that you're paying for it. So the paperwork is complete, everything is done. So that is what clear to close means. And at that point, that's where things happen in a very, very fast fashion. So understand what that means is that you are absolutely ready to go. No ifs, ands, or buts. Then there's a transfer of money, obviously. So the closing documents by federal standards have got to be done 3 days in advance. And understand that most title companies that I'm aware of do not take cashier's checks anymore. And the reason why is fraud. We're seeing that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So what they're going to do is have you wire the money. So money is going to be wired from your lender. Money is going to be wired from you. But let me tell you, one of the biggest things going on in real estate right now is fraudulent emails saying, hey, you need to send your proceeds. And I tell you what, we saw this early on. We had a couple of investors that actually lost their money because they thought, oh my gosh, this is the title company. But when you look at the emails, addresses, they look close to what the title company is, but they're really not. So you're wiring to somebody that's scamming you. And what they're doing is keeping that money. You're never going to get it back. All right. So understand that, when we get to closing, the title company, us, everybody, before you wire that money, you need to verify that's really them. Call the title company and say, I just got this email, and it says send the money. Is this you? But look at the email addresses, because sometimes you can see that they're different. But you know something? I'm sorry that fraud is everywhere with us. It's big time in real estate, especially at closing. You can't afford to lose that money. It's a terrible thing. But again, understand you got advocates here, which is us, which is the title company. So I just want to put that warning into you just from the beginning. So once you close, the property manager takes over. So in other words, the property manager should always be in the loop. So with the property managers, we do a lot of properties. And so what we do is we do an Excel spreadsheet that we send our property managers. It's updated constantly. In other words, they have a link. They can see where the process is. They can see where the closing is. And even we do an email, or even on top of that, saying, look, this is closing in 3 days. So they understand that. Now they're in contact with you, the property manager, so they may know this a little bit, but everybody, again, this is the turnkey operation. This is where there's checks and balances, everybody communicating. So they're gonna know, because again, once you close officially, then the primary fiduciary duty goes from someone like me to someone like the property manager. They're your number one at that point. Doesn't mean we disappear or we can't help, but they're number one at that point. So they know to go to the closing company or wherever the keys are and pick up the keys. And again, fiduciary duty means a lot. It puts a lot of responsibility on whoever is dealing with you. So that's what they are at that point. So, ask your manager if they mark it before closing or not. That's another situation. Technically, they're not really supposed to market a property in like the MLS and some other places until you actually close, although they may do some more general marketing, but that's a question for your property manager. But they're the people that get turned over to your property that are your primary folks that are going to take care of you. So I want to go through that so you understand that. But we're going to go a little bit more into detail in the next email about the importance of inspections. And they are extremely important to ensure the fact that when you close, especially if it's out of state, everything is right. So stay tuned. This is an important part of this whole process.